Hello! Magandang buhay! I'm Q.4, the leader of Q.7, and today we're going to present to you our video lesson with the topic of Q.4, Module 7, Biogeochemical Cycles. So, what are we waiting for? Let's start! Let's begin with what you need to know. The flow of energy is the most important factor that controls what kinds of organisms live in an ecosystem. In this module, you will learn how organisms obtain energy and their role in our environment. Students will then identify the role of the living organisms in the cycling of some important elements or substances such as water, oxygen, carbon and nitrogen, and the impact of human activities in our environment. At the end of this module, you are expected to accomplish the following objectives. Explain the process of the following cycles: oxygen-carbon dioxide cycle, water cycle, and nitrogen cycle, and suggest ways to minimize human impact on the environment. So to deeply explain the contents of this module, let's continue on what is it. Materials in the ecosystem cycle constantly. This cycling of materials will not exist alone without the salient roles of organisms. The interaction between living and non-living organisms play a big part in the cycling process of oxygen-carbon dioxide cycle, the water cycle, and the nitrogen cycle. Moving on, Lesson 1, Oxygen-Carbon Dioxide Cycle. Carbon and oxygen are two elements that are essential to life. They are naturally present in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide and gaseous oxygen. Since they are circulating between soil, air, and water, living matter goes always with the cycle. Look at the illustration on the screen. It will explain more about this lesson. The oxygen cycle and the carbon dioxide cycle, carbon cycle, are two of the biogeochemical cycles on Earth that make life possible. They act separately but are dependent on each other. Let us find out more in this lesson. How the oxygen-carbon dioxide cycle occurs in nature. Oxygen comes mainly from green plants as a product of photosynthesis, process of wood making in plants in the aid of sunlight and carbon dioxide gas. Oxygen gas will be used by animals during the process of respiration, inhaling and exhaling of gas. To produce carbon dioxide gas, one of the waste products of the animals. These carbon dioxide gases from the atmosphere will be used by plants again to manufacture its own food. Carbon dioxide gas will be absorbed by plants during respiration process. Then the cycle will repeat again. You will notice that the animals and plants are interdependent on each other for the exchange of these important gases.
Lesson 2, the water cycle.
The water cycle, also known as the hydrologic cycle or the hydrological cycle, it describes the continuous movements of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. Water cycle is like a big circle that does not really have starting point. Below are the different processes of water cycle. As the sun shines over water, it will heat up, may cause the surface to evaporate. Liquid turns to gas or water vapor phase. Water vapor rises up to the atmosphere. The escape of water through leaf pores, transpiration, adds water vapor to the atmosphere. In special cases in mountains where snow and ice mix with high humidity of air may cause the snow and ice to sublimate. Solid phase turns to water vapor without passing to liquid. Water vapor reaches the cooling point at higher altitude that makes them to condense. Vapor turns to water and forms clouds. This water formed in clouds become heavy and fall back to earth in the form of precipitation, snow, sleet, hail, and rain. Fell down water from clouds in the form of precipitation goes directly to mountains on the ground as runoff water. Some go down deeply into the soil, transpiration. Some go to the lakes, seas, oceans, and the cycle repeats again. Lesson 3. The nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen gas is the most abundant gas in the atmosphere. It comprises 78 to 79% of the atmosphere. It is one of the primary nutrients critical for the survival of all living organisms. How does nitrogen cycle process occur?
First stage in nitrogen cycle is the conversion of nitrogen gas in water. This can happen during phenomenon where nitrogen-fixing bacteria separate N gas and combine with atoms of hydrogen. In the process of nitrogen fixation, it is also the same to nitrogen fixing bacteria living in the soil, most particularly in the nodules, legumes many animals eat. Second stage, when an animal or plant dies, their bodies will be decomposed, and the decomposed organic matter will release ammonium ions or ammonification process, being absorbed and used by plants. Third stage, nitrifying bacteria in the soil converts ammonium ions to nitrites and nitrates in the presence of oxygen, or known as nitrification. Soil must be aerated to ensure rich supply. Last stage, the nitrifying bacteria convert nitrates into nitrogen gas in the process of nitrification or in reduction of oxygen due to waterlogged conditions of the soil. Nitrogen gas will release in the atmosphere and the cycle gas again.
Look at the illustration on the screen. Lesson 4. How do human activities affect the ecosystem? Humans are the top consumers in many food pyramids. To increase food production, they use methods that have an effect on food chains and food webs. Some of the farming practices are described as follows.
Monoculture. This is the cultivation of a single crop in large area. Vast tracts of lands are converted to rice farms, sugar farms, and coconut farms. By limiting the cultivation of different kinds of plants, people also deprive many animals of their food and home. These animals, some of which feed on insect pests, move to other places. Only the insect pests that eat the monocrop remain in the area. If uncontrolled, these pests can totally wipe out the monocrop in a short time. Some soil microorganisms depends on specific plants for food. Eliminating these plants is harmful to the microorganisms, since microorganisms are responsible for returning plants nutrients to the soil. The cycling of nutrients for reuse of the plants is distributed.
Look at the illustration on the screen.
Herbicides and insecticides. Farmers spray their crops with insecticides to kill insect pests and with herbicides to kill weeds. However, the chemicals also destroy other organisms, including beneficial insects and soil organisms, which help in decay. Insecticides move up the food pyramid and accumulate in the body of organisms. The smallest concentration of the chemical is at the base of the pyramid, occupied by producers. The amount increases towards the top. The greatest concentration is found in the top consumers, such as birds, mammals, and humans. Many insect pests become resistant to chemicals. This may lead to the use of increased amount of pesticides.
Look at the illustration on the screen. Chemical fertilizers. Monocrops usually require large amounts of chemical fertilizers. Continuous and uncontrolled use of chemical fertilizers may increase soil acidity, thus destroying soil structure. Findings show that more fertilizers are needed for the same amount of yield after years of monoculture. Fertilizers may run off to rivers, ponds, and lakes. Accumulation of fertilizers may cause the death of these bodies of water. Fertilizers in the water will cause increased growth of algae and other water plants. They cover the water surface and block the passage of oxygen. Thus, less oxygen is dissolved in water. Furthermore, when algae and aquatic plants die, decayed microorganisms use oxygen. Dissolved oxygen becomes insufficient, causing fish and other aquatic animals to die. To conserve the environment, some desirable practices are described below. 1. Grow a variety of crops instead of only one crop. 2. Use insects to fight other insects. This is known as biological control of insect pests. 3. Instead of chemical fertilizers, try organic farming using natural fertilizers for crops. Some natural fertilizers are compost and animal manure. Look at the illustration on the screen. Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed our video lesson. Again, this is Micaela Magtoto, the leader of Group 7.